Hi, my name is Merce and welcome back to the channel. This is the second part of the story of my small scale guitar and its twin sister. As I promised, today we will be comparing two custom guitars that Maestro Daniele Chiesa built upon my request. So the fascinating part of this sound comparison is going to be that we have two guitars, same age, same maker, one being played, the other not, both being built under the same parameters, the same requests, and yet many differences came along the way with one and the other. If you missed the background story and you would like to know how I got to the point to order a guitar of 60 centimeters length, please check out the link in the description. It might be useful if you are considering this option for yourself. So, which kind of guitar did I actually request? Let's get to the details. The type of construction, obviously, that's what Daniele does, so it's a traditional construction, and that's just totally his thing. The specifications that I told to him that I wanted, my preference, were I wanted the guitar to be a spruce top, the 60 centimeters scale length, the body size, the rest just adapted so that I left it all up to him. And then I also asked for the dark head, since I know that some of his guitars had it in the past, and mine, the one that I bought in Barcelona, the 64 centimeters, had a very lighter color and I just liked it dark, so I requested that as well. I wanted also a double hole on the bridge for stringing. I also liked very much this wider strip on the back of the guitar, and then just two fancy details, which were my own logo on the heel, so on the back of the 12th fret. And for the Rosetta, I asked him something that I think was pretty challenging, and he used I don't know how many thousands of small little squares to create that, was to replicate the design of the crystal ceiling in Palau de la Música, which is a very important auditorium there in Barcelona. So it was a special touch because it's like my hometown, and that design there it's pretty impressive. So I wanted it to have in my Rosetta, because why not? So with this project, Daniele had quite a few challenges. First and foremost was the extreme downsize. That created him lots of challenges in terms of building of the machinery that he used. As we mentioned in the first video, he needed to readapt it so many things and recalculate all the acoustic system on the guitar so that it wouldn't come out like a deaf guitar or like really poorly sounding. So that was a very big challenge for him. He also had no reference whatsoever from any previous build like this. Like nobody that he knew had attempted such a weird thing. Another challenge was that since the guitar is smaller, the string is shorter, so that the pressure that you can apply through the string onto the guitar top is a lot lower. At least in numbers it is. Maybe in the finished product is not so apparent, but there is yet a big difference that he had to consider. So there is much less tension. Reading the numbers and the calculations, that was a very large difference. So that was a very important factor for him to consider altogether, if it was possible. Due to all these big challenges that directly attacked to the main elements of making a guitar, he then decided to make two guitars for me. One he would eventually keep for himself, and it would also help him to adjust parameters along the way during the build. So now that we have the guitars built, let's see the similarities and the differences. Let's start with the similarities, which is maybe the easiest. Both are spruce from Switzerland, and the sides and back with the rosewood from India. The neck and the body size, that was with the parameter 60 centimeters, and the body size he adapted it, and both were exactly the same size. The aesthetical elements that I asked to him, like the logo, the back strip, and all of that just stayed the same. And also the tuners are both the same. So let's go to the differences. Despite sharing so many similar elements, like the wood, the guitar maker, the process, they actually came out very different. Not only number-wise, but also the way they feel when you play them. First of all, both tops are very different in thickness. Just so that you have a reference, he works with two parameters. The first one is the thickness of the top related to the weight and the rigidity. With the same thickness, it can be more or less rigid or weight more or less. The other parameter that he controls during his build is what they call the second mode of vibration. That is one note which is produced while drumming or striking the top of the wood, when there are still no braces or anything, and the pitch resulting will be determined by the mass and the rigidity of the wood. With the same mass or weight, the note will be higher in pitch if the wood is more rigid. With the same weight, but sounding a lower note, then the top will be softer, so less rigid. These parameters are the ones that he uses to control the final result of his guitars. And manipulating those and understanding those, that's how he can manage the two very different sounding woods, or two very different woods to begin with. They end up having a very similar sound for his Chiesa signature. One has to say that the numbers of the thickness, the weight, the rigidity, and, well, of course, the second mode of vibration tend to fall in very strict range of numbers. And from the artistic standpoint, while talking to him, I found very interesting something that he mentioned. Besides his extensive knowledge of the scientific part of the guitar building, he developed through the years a very, very subtle but yet reliable skill, which he calls measuring sensations. He learned to tune his sensations, his feel, when inspecting the wood, and feel all the nuances and see all the differences to anticipate how to work it and how each piece to make it sound like his guitars. And that was a very nice process that he does, which is that he writes down what he feels with that wood, what is going to turn out like before anything is done, just with that one piece. And once the build is completed, the guitars never really fall very different from his parameters and his initial sensation. And the complexity of this is truly great when you imagine that even pieces cut from the same tree, the same batch, can have completely different behaviors, which is absolutely fascinating and mind-blowing how expertise, knowledge, and of course sheer talent gathered together in trusting his sensations can produce such an excellent and consistent work. Anyways, knowing the parameters that he uses to work with, let's get into how my guitars fit into this picture. Just for sake of clarity, we will call my guitar number 1 and the sister number 2. The sister is the one that has been in his workshop sleeping for quite a long time. So the top of guitar number 1 is 1/10 of a millimeter thicker than guitar number 2. So guitar 1 is 2.1 millimeters thick and the other one is 2 millimeters. One can think that is very little different, but I can assure you that when you're playing, you feel the difference. And that's probably why it took me so long, it took me maybe almost a year to get the second guitar responding. The difference is not so small when you put it into proportion to what it is. 1/10 of a millimeter, if we are talking about 2 millimeters, is a 5% of it, which is quite a lot. Regarding the weight, guitar number 1 is 94 grams, only the top, without counting the sound hole yet. The other one is 120 grams. That's another huge difference. Rigidity-wise, guitar number 1 was less rigid than the sister. And what's even more interesting then is that the second mode of vibration, so the note that Maestro Chiesa had as a reference, in guitar number 1 was D sharp, and for guitar number 2 was E. So guitar number 2 is heavier and also is higher pitched. And of course, his parameters of what he uses is part of his process, but he told me that these numbers fall very, very far from what he usually works with. So it was very risky for him to accept such a build. So now we are here. These guitars were made in 2016. One has been playing a lot, the other has not. And I've sent mine to his workshop to be checked and, put back into shape. He sent me his guitar here so that I could have something to play with. Now my guitar is back, and I asked, which difference can I expect? Mostly two big differences. The time being played, which the guitar number 1 has been played for many years, and the other not. That will make a huge difference probably in the sound comparison. And the second is the sound development. The spruce tends to open up the sound, and the sound changes really a lot as you play the guitar. So it's a really fascinating experience, this sound comparison, because it's both guitars, same age, same maker, and one being played and one not. Unfortunately, there is sad news to this. After this, I have to send one guitar back. And see how the sister of my guitar developed, I'm not even sure anymore what will be my final choice. Anyways, knowing all the technical details of one and the other, let's get to the sound comparison. I hope you like it. I tried to make a selection of pieces that will show the characteristics of both guitars and will show also the differences. So don't forget to write down in the comments down below which one is your favorite. If you are enjoying the video so far, please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more content like this. This topic of the size opens up a world for guitar makers that is huge to explore. It's like a shoe size. If we would only cut it to big or small, how many people would just be in like huge discomfort? But that's by no means a traditional approach into something so complex like is a musical instrument. We have centuries behind of tradition that has locked us into 65 centimeters, 66, and now slowly expanding to the 64 as a regular and common size. I believe that maybe we have gone down this path seeking volume, trying to get the guitar into the larger concert halls, thinking that the size of the instrument is everything that determines the volume, without looking back or around for more options. You know, there are so many aspects that configure a great guitar, and each instrument has its strong qualities and weak points. There is not a perfect guitar. In my opinion, it's always a balance between what you like and what you need in terms of sound, volume, colors. Because maybe if you play a lot of chamber music, maybe you need to prioritize the actual volume. But if you play solo, maybe you're more excited about having variety and nuances. Luckily for us, we have more and more guitar makers, like for instance, I know of Marco Celito. He was also an Italian builder who was proactively studying and proving also with amazing results that guitars can even have half the body depth of a regular guitar, so very, very narrow bodies, but yet having an incredible good projection. Thus, the volume perception is louder than many regular concert guitars out there playing at the same concert hall. We actually tested his guitars just for that purpose, and we were a bunch of players, all with different guitars, different constructions, and the results of understanding how much the projection impacts in volume were pretty impressive. But that is a long story, and we can maybe leave it for another story time. So clearly, it's not only the size that determines the volume. Now that's a road that still needs to be explored. Maybe if we, guitar players, start to take more risks and request guitar makers to explore such possibilities, I'm pretty sure we open a door to an exciting world of acoustics and sound development and instrumental possibilities that we just didn't consider yet. Let me know in the comments which guitar you like the most, and if you're currently experiencing issues with the size of your guitar, maybe we could start a little revolution together and push to new boundaries to the guitar making world. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and please leave a like and share if you did, and as always, stay healthy and practice a lot. Spruce top.